Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our town hall. Got a lot to dig in tonight, so we'll boogie on. Thanks for being here with us. All right, so some events that we want to cover tonight: event updates, closing up the FTC season and kicking off, or really already kicked off in the meat of it for FRC season. Some safety updates for FRC. Discussion on playoff breaks, which is a new element that's incorporated this year, a couple volunteer needs, and then just for those of us who are new or who need a refresher, an in-person events uh, overview that hopefully will be helpful as we return out of this post-COVID world. At the end of that, we'll have time for Q&A, and if there are anything that I talked about here that you want to dig in more, or if you have other questions that you think of, please leave them in the chat, and we will gather those for the end of the conversation, and we'll run through them. All right. So first off, congratulations. We had 6 FTC teams who are heading off to Houston. Really excited. It was an incredible finale, very amazing play, and really excited to send these 6 teams there. And congratulations. They should all feel very good for themselves. Some FRC updates for y'all. The website should now be live. If you go to the firstchesapeake.org website, we've simplified the URL a little bit. So if you are trying to find a specific event, it'll be firstchesapeake.org/FRC/ the name of the event. So Blacksburg, Alexandria, etc. That'll get you to those pages. All of those should be updated now. I just finished them right before here. So if there are any updates or things as we have them, we'll continue to push through them. Blacksburg's first up, so their page is entirely done and ready to go. For those of you who are competing there, make sure to go there and check it out. There is a pit request for a table and just some bot check-in points, and then there's also a lunch form. So excited for Blacksburg there. We have been getting this comment. The event link on firstinspires.org is wrong. It's going to an old event page. I think it's like events.firstinspires.org. We're not using that anymore. So we've emailed them to update it. There's just a little bit of delay. So if you want to get to the sites, just go to firstchesapeake.org/FRC/ the location of the event. Also, as an update, as of this morning, we filled all of our spots, so we have no more capacity. That doesn't mean that teams won't drop and things will move around. So of course that will always happen. If that is the case and you would really much prefer to be in another event, if you send me an email, it's abryant, BRYANT, @firstchesapeake.org. If you send me that email, I'll add you to the wait list. And as people drop or if people shuffle around, we will work our way through that wait list. We will have 60 teams at Champs. That will be an increase of 2. I think we had 58 before. So excited to have all 60 this year. And from that, we'll have 19 that will advance on to Worlds. So always important, safety. One of the things we want to kick it off with is a congratulations to Team 836 for winning the 2023 Safety Animation Award, winning animation. Really cute design, love the claymation. You guys can check it out if you want to go to it. It's down there at bit.ly/23-safety-video. And of course, if you come to any of the competitions, we're gonna see it. So congrats again. That's Team 836, the RoboBees out of Maryland. Phenomenal job. Turning our eyes towards safety glasses this year. We do want to make sure that teams know that they're responsible for safety glasses, and that also includes for visitors to the pit. So parents, guests, anyone who's coming to visit you, make sure that you have a pair for them or you have a collection of pairs. We just want to make sure everyone's covered. You can read more into that on the safety manual. That's at that bit.ly CHS-safety. It's really important to check in there and make sure that as we get back to full events, we are operating safety and operating making sure that everyone's covered. Speaking on that, there is a tiny touch point that we want to talk about for the field this season. If you see right here, this white area and this area, it's called a barrier. I think if you go to section 5.3 in the game manual, you'll see an actual barrier. It is clear plexiglass, and it's about 1 foot tall. It's a huge tripping hazard. So during gameplay, in practice play, they've noticed that that was a big deal. And so we just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that as we're coming on and off the field. And it will be something that we'll have volunteers helping with navigating around, but just everyone's awareness. There is a 1-foot tripping hazard that is made of clear plastic as an extra challenge for this year. Moving on into the playoff breaks, I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to read this, but it's in the game manual, section 11.7.2. We are now adding in breaks during the district events. So there's going to be a mandatory 8-minute break after match 4, 8, and 10. And then as we get into the finals, that will stretch into a 15-minute break. That adds about 90-ish minutes during the day. And after match 15, that's match 16, if we need to add a match 16, there'd be another 15-minute break there. This will change for champs, where all of those 8-minute breaks will become 15-minute breaks. Again, extending that length of the day. There's stuff that's happening in those breaks, so it's not just downtime, and we will make sure to fill it most effectively. But just awareness for everyone. That will mean some of the presentations of awards could move up earlier into the day to take up some of those 15-minute slots, and some of the video presentations that we have will take in that time. Always need volunteers as we go into the first week. Actually, Blacksburg is really, really well covered. So thank you to everyone out there in that community. I think almost all the roles are filled, which is phenomenal. We hope to be there for all of the places as we look at Bethesda and Alexandria and Portsmouth coming up in a couple weeks. We definitely need more judges, and inspectors are always important. And then that field team, like I was talking about, the field resetters this year are going to be really important. I think there's about 10 roles per event, and a couple of those roles are just going to be there to help us navigate some of the field tripping hazards and things like that. Also, I want to speak to the install team. The first has done a couple of runs of it, and they're thinking it's going to take about 7 hours. So if you have time, especially on those Friday afternoons, we'd love to have you there, have a big crew, and really knock this out so it doesn't stretch much longer than 7 hours for that install. Okay, so returning to in-person events, I know some of you have only been here during COVID, and maybe last year is the first time that you experienced an in-person event. But as we go back to full steam, we really want to make sure that people are aware of some things. So one, travel and lodging. So please plan accordingly for a 3-day event. The meat of the day is on Saturday and Sunday, but a lot of teams do get there on Friday and check in. Most, if not all of them, I think have check in around 5 or 6 in the evening, and it'll run until about 8 or 9. That'll allow people to start setting their pits, getting some inspections done, and just generally becoming aware of the venue and the order of the day. Moving on to inspections, really want to review the inspection reflections blog that First put out. I think that has some really helpful tips and tricks for the teams, and it gets very technical. And there also is a video series. I linked that with a bit.ly here, so that's CHS-inspection. It's like a 5 YouTube video series that'll be really helpful, especially for new teams and returning teams who maybe are a little bit foggy here. Inspections is definitely going to be the probably most time-intensive, time-crunchy part of the day. So the faster we can get through it and the faster we can all have everyone checked off is going to be better. The last one is please check the team updates. I think team update 13 was just released. I know I got an email, and they've also posted it on Facebook and things like that. And then also read the Q&A. That Q&A is linked on all of those event pages. As questions come up about play or hypotheticals, that's going to be the end-all be-all for the refs as far as what the rulings will be. So if you have questions, it's possible that they've already been answered and asked in there. And if not, certainly ask it, because you're just helping the community, and that'll be really beneficial. Sorry. Okay. So what to expect for those days, like we were talking about, teams will have pits. This might be very introductory for many teams, but for those of you out there who this is your first event, I hope that this is helpful. Those pits are typically going to be like a 10 by 10 by 10. It might be a 9 by 9. It really just depends on how much space we have in some of those facilities. There will also be a table if you would request one. The table request forms are all on those event pages. So you can go there, fill that form out, takes 2 seconds, and that'll just let us know that, hey, we need a table, or no, we're fine, we're gonna bring our own. And there'll also be power in there, all the important things for maintaining our robot throughout the weekend. The next important meeting is the driver's meeting. That's gonna be first thing on Saturday for most events. This is a way for you to get introduced to the key volunteers, your FTAs, your lead judges, your head refs, all those people who will be really important to know throughout the weekend, and also an opportunity to ask any questions that you have, things that maybe weren't covered in that Q&A online, or things that have maybe just come up. If you would like to, you can pre-submit those questions with a driver's meeting question form. They're going to have those at pit admin. So when you check in, you can request that form, or just any time before that. That will be really helpful. Queuing and leaving. So the pit announcer and team queuers are going to help teams come and get ready for the matches. Please, when they come to you, they're just trying to help everyone get in line. So work with them. Make sure that you are ready to go when your team is getting close to your match schedule. There is a new rule this year as far as leaving, which is why that's in there. If you fail to leave very slowly, promptly, you can get a yellow card after a couple times. So just want to make sure that everyone is coming onto the field in a timely manner and leaving in a timely manner. Of course, safety is really, really important, but I do want to make everyone aware of that new change to the rules. And lastly, judging. So at the event, teams will have volunteer judges, and they will come to the pit to interview students about their robot, talk about their outreach efforts, and teams should really be prepared to talk to judges and specifically review those FRC awards, so they can speak a little bit more to what the judges are looking for. That'll be really helpful for the teams. And next is what to bring to these events. The most important thing, there's a couple of required and a couple of suggested. So left hand number 1 and 2 are absolutely required. All of the coaches will need to bring a team roster and a consent and release forms. Those consent and release forms are all digital this year. So if you show up with a bunch of paper, that's fine, but really we just need the digital copy. And that will be denoted on your first dashboard where your team roster is. So we're going to use that to check people in. When you go to check in at the pit admin, please show them that and have everyone, all of those consent and release forms signed before that day. Otherwise, you'll have a stressful check-in time. And then the second thing that's required is safety glasses. Again, just like we talked about before, it's required for all the participants who are in the field, in the pits. And if you are planning on having visitors, if mom, dad, friends wants to come by, make sure that you also have glasses for them, as there won't be a glasses library available to share during the day. Some things that are suggested, not required, but could be helpful. Robot carts. A lot of teams use these to transport their robots throughout the event. They're not required, but after a couple times of picking a robot up and carrying it, you might be super tired. So highly encourage that. You also want to bring any tools or fasteners or extra power strips that you have. Really just things to maintain the robot. If should the worst happen, you want to make sure that you're covered. We will have a machine shop at Champs, so that will hopefully help with especially some of the more technical pieces. But at the qualifier, or at the district events, you will want to bring what you need to maintain the robot throughout the course of the weekend. And the last one is a competition spirit. I know when I was in FRC, we painted ourselves blue because we were the Skyhawks. So a real strong attention to your team in a way that promotes good taste and is in the spirit of competition or cooperation. Flags, mascot costumes, all of those things are welcome and wonderful to bring. If you do want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of that, there are specifics in the game manual, so you can research that there, but we absolutely encourage that and would love to see a big return to these in-person events. So with that, I think I sped through it really quickly. Are there questions? I think that there are some in here, and I can start going through them. Or if you have any other questions, please leave them over in the chat. So Blacksburg could use more judges. Can always use more judges. If you would like to judge, you can go onto that firstinspires.org, your volunteer portal, and pick Blacksburg as volunteering. And I think you can request a judging slot. And Debbie, our director of volunteers, will get you coordinated and situated. They only need the green check. That's correct. So when we're talking about your roster and your consent and release forms, we need the consent and release form signed, and we will know that because there is a check on that roster. So we don't need physical forms, and please don't bring them. We need that roster with that little green check. If there are people on your team who don't have that check and they're not in attendance, we'll need to figure that out and make sure that they are really not attending for the weekend. Likewise, the only person who will be checking teams in is either head coach 1 or head coach 2. So if a parent of a team gets there early, they have to wait until one of the head coaches is there to check people in with that consent and release with that team roster. Let's see. I think there was a question about 10 by 10 by 10. That is from the game manual. It implies that you have 10 feet of space above you. I don't know that we've ever had an issue with that. And certainly when there are flags and things like that in the pits, that's okay. We're not gonna, that doesn't bother us nearly as much as the square footage on the ground. But that officially is a 10 by 10 by 10 cube is what first says. Okay. Well, thank you all for this evening. If you have any other questions, I highly encourage you to email me. That's going to be the best way to get in contact with me, abryant@firstchesapeake.org. If you do want to give me a call and I don't answer, please leave a voicemail. That way I know who's calling and I can be able to get back to you in a timely manner. But otherwise, if there aren't any other questions or any other topics that we wanted to talk about, then we're happy to end tonight early.